Hello everyone and welcome back into my craft room for the second time this week. We are live, at least I'm hoping we're live, I'll check in a minute. Live on Facebook to do some crafting, and today I'm going to be making some cards using the Timeless Arrangements bundle, which I'll tell you a little bit more about in a minute. It's new in the annual catalogue. I really love the way the stamps and dies work together, and the dies have an interesting feature that makes using them very easy indeed. So the first thing I'm going to do is check and see if I'm live, and hopefully the volume will be okay and the sound is all there. So just bear with me while I find myself on here and see if I can hear myself. Yes, so if I can hear myself, hopefully you can hear me. There we go. We had no issues with sound last time whatsoever, so fingers crossed, whatever the gremlins were inside the internet, that everything will be okay now. I think I've said to you before, you know, I've done a lot of testing. My microphone is definitely working absolutely fine, so it is some kind of issue within Facebook again, but never mind. We forge on, don't we? We don't let it bother us. So here in the UK, we've got a long weekend, 2 bank holiday weekends in a row. Can't be bad. Thank you very much indeed to the King, who has given us an extra bank holiday Monday. It's the coronation tomorrow, and whether you're a staunch royalist or not, certainly you can't argue that history is going to be made tomorrow. So it's very exciting. The flags are up everywhere. Actually, we haven't got ours out yet, but they will be out later today. And I'm looking forward to some time off. I'm tired this afternoon, I don't mind admitting. I went to a film festival last night, which was a lot of fun. I saw some great films, but I was very late to bed, and then I couldn't get to sleep because my mind was buzzing. So I'm pretty tired today. So bear with me if I'm not as sharp as usual. I'm hoping I will be fine. Okay, so what's happening here? In Stampin' Up news, the catalogues were posted out at the beginning of the week. I know some have arrived, some have not arrived. I'm sorry if they haven't arrived. Once they go in that post box, they are out of my hand. Actually, I didn't put them in the post box. I gave them to the lady at the post office to make absolutely sure I knew when they were going. But you should get them very soon if you haven't got them already. I think the trouble with bank holidays is they slow everything up, don't they? So that's the catalogues. If I'm going to be seeing you at my launch party and customer thank you event a week today, then I may have your catalogue for you, or I may not. A lot of you I've already seen and handed them over. As you know, I posted the fewest that I could manage this year just because the postage has gone up so much. But anyway, the posted ones are on their way. Hello Mary, nice to see you. I saw your email, Mary. I haven't had a chance to reply to it yet. I don't know if you heard me say just now or not. Your catalogue was posted out to you on Tuesday morning, first thing. So I'm sorry it hasn't arrived yet. I had hoped they would all arrive yesterday, and I'm really sorry that yours hasn't, but it is on its way. So if your post has arrived today, I don't know if you'll get it tomorrow or not, but fingers crossed anyway. You can always look at the catalogue online, and when I reply properly to your email later, I will send you a link so that you can look at it online. But I do know that that isn't the same thing at all as having a paper copy in your hand, because I prefer a paper copy as well. Okay, so that's catalogues. Today is the last day to book for my June card class happening on June the 1st. It's the last day to book for the June card class by post, which will be posted out to you at the latest by June the 2nd, and I will email you videos. I have not emailed this month's class videos yet for that, if anybody is wondering, but they will be going out this afternoon. And it is also the last day to book for the Daisy Sweet Sampler, which I've shown you a few times now. Quite a few of you have ordered one of those. It's proving to be a popular one, and I'm not surprised. It's really pretty. So if you want one of those, you need to let me know by the end of today, please. Okay, you are welcome, Mary. You are welcome. Fingers crossed. Okay, so I think that is all the news and announcements. I'm going to pop the camera down to my desk, try and remember to put the mirror image thingy on as well, which I completely forgot about last week, and I will show you the new Timeless Arrangements bundle. So just bear with me while I get everything changed around. You know by now that this is always a little bit of a challenge for me. Hello Kay, thank you so much for joining us. It's lovely to have you. Okay, so let's see. Let's see. I will almost certainly have to move things a little bit. Oh, that's not too bad at all, actually, is it? Are you impressed? Let's just move this forward a bit. I know you've got the tripod legs and I can't do anything about that. A bit more. There we are. That's pretty good. I think I'm going to leave well alone. Let's just see if I can do something about these leads. Just got to untangle that one. I thought I'd untangled it at the beginning, but obviously not. There we go. Hook that one over the back and coil this one up. I've got my catalogue here so that I can show you the page that these stamps and dies are on. There we are, I think we're there. Okay, so I looked it up before and I put a marker in and then I moved the marker and I haven't remembered to mark it again. Page 67. So if you have your copy of the catalogue, it's on page 67. And I will just show you here. Oh, I did put a marker in. There we are. And let's just fold that over and then I can get it up here for you. So here we are. It's a really big stamp set. There are 26 stamps in there and it's a big die set as well. But because it's on photopolymer, that keeps the price down, so it's no more expensive than any of the other bundles, even though it's such a large set. As always, there are some samples here showing how the Stampin' Up artists and designers have used it. And at the end of the catalogue in the bundle index, there is another sample there as well. So there are lots and lots and lots of words in the stamp set. Many of them are sized to fit on the die cut labels. There are 3 die cut labels and they're about thanks and appreciation and sending love and things like you made me smile, that sort of thing. So it's not happy birthdays as such, but I think it's always really nice to be able to send a card to somebody just telling them that you appreciate them or you're grateful for something they've done for you. And of course you don't have to use the words every time because there are lots of floral images here as well. So let me bring out my little kind of crib sheet which I've done. So this shows everything stamped out. So you can see there are all these words here. So there's thanks, there's thank you, there's also a very much, so you can say thank you very much. Love and, so you can do love and thanks. Lots and lots and lots of other ones, so I'm not going to read them all out to you. But this shows you that these 5 kind of botanical images can also be die cut. I'll lift this up in just a minute and show you. And then there are a couple of background stamps. I really like this one with circles interlocked. And there's a little triple flower stamp there as well. And then these are all your die cuts, which die cut independently of the stamped images. So you've got a separate leaf, a separate little, I don't know if this is buds or berries, 2 separate flower sprigs which are different, and then you have 4 of these kind of die cuts which are almost like a group. So they're a group of flowers or berries or leaves attached to a bar, and that's what makes these different and so easy to use, because when you're attaching groups of these die cuts together, instead of holding on to that leaf spray and trying to get glue on the back of it, which is fiddly at best, you can simply put glue on the back of this and layer it onto another one and onto another one, and then put it underneath or over the top of another piece or maybe a label, and you've got the whole thing arranged in one. And you'll see me do that in a minute. So if that doesn't make sense, hopefully it will. And then there are also these 3 really nice labels. I'm going to turn this around just because of the restrictions I have getting everything under the camera. but to try and show you the labels. I don't know if the light is hitting that well enough for you to see, but each of these labels has stitching around it. They have a dotted line around the edge, and then in the center of each side there is a little cross, almost like a cross stitch. They're very pretty labels. And then here are your stamped and die cut images as well. So a really nice stamp set. But what can you do with it? Well, let's have a little look, shall we? So I've got 3 cards that I'm aiming to make this afternoon, and then 2 of them I've made in an alternate colour, so that you can see a different version of it as well. It never ceases to amaze me how different some things can look when you stamp them in a different colour. I've got measurements for you as well, because I know a lot of you like to have the measurements when I make something, so it's easier for you to recreate. And I've used mostly new colours as well, so that you can see those. So my colour for this card, my main colour, is Berry Burst. So this is a returning colour. It's gone into the main collections. We had it as an in colour, I don't know how many years ago now, 4, 5 years ago, something like that, I think. It's a beautiful deep pink colour. I really love this colour. If you know me, it'll be no surprise for you to know that, because I really, really love pink. So I've got a square card base, then I've got a layer of white, and I've embossed this with one of the Basics embossing folders. Now these are not in the catalogue. They are shown online only, although I can order them for you. You don't have to order them online. It's a really nice set of 3 embossing folders. So this is a kind of a cross-hatched design. There's also the 2 which I used last Friday. If you saw me doing the faux patina technique last Friday, I used both the other 2 folders in that. They are out of stock at the moment, but they're coming back. So if you want to know when they're back, drop me an email and I will let you know. So I've got that as a layer, and then I've got another layer of Berry Burst, and then I have a die cut stitched circle here. This is cut from the Stylish Shapes dies, and let me just pop the measurements there. So you've got those, and that's the wrong colour. That's my other card that I've already made. So let me just correct that. Asia Afternoon, it won't surprise you to know, is a blue colour, and the colour that I'm doing with you is Berry Burst. That's better. There we go. So my card base started off at 9 inches by 4.5 inches. I've scored it landscape at 4.5 inches. So that's on the long side. And so that folds up into a 4.5 inch square card. My embossed layer is 4.25 inches square. My Berry Burst layer is 3.25 inches square. And then I've used, this is the second largest circle in the Stylish Shapes dies. I've also got a die cut label, so this is cut with the Timeless Arrangements dies. And then I've forgotten to write on there the insert. I'm not doing very well. I told you I was tired today. So the insert is the same as the embossed layer, same size, 4.25 inches square. There we are. Now that's all the information. Okay, so the images that I'm going to use on this are 3 of these botanical stamps. So the leaves, the flower, and the open, I don't know if that's berries, or I'm thinking it's a flower with lots of little kind of florets on it. And I'm also using this circles image here. So I'm going to stamp this first of all and do a little bit of colouring on it. I'm going to use my stamping blends, and so I'm stamping in a water-based ink. I'm not using a permanent ink because that will just smudge. So I'm using Memento because the colours I'm colouring with are quite bright, so I wanted a good contrast, and I'm just going to pop my foam mat under here. I think my ink pad might need re-inking, but hopefully we can manage. So I'm just stamping these and crisscrossing the stems a little bit. There we are. And I'm going to colour those in. It won't take me long because they're very small areas. So this is light blueberry bushel, this blue. This is another returning colour. We had this as an in colour, again 5 or 6 years ago. I wasn't that wild about it then, but having looked at it again now, I'm thinking, oh, this is a really nice sort of royal blue. I'm not trying to do any shading because these sections are really, really small. So that's my blueberry bushel. Then I'm going to colour in this large flower using the light berry burst. Oh, I do love this colour. For as long as I can remember, pink has been my favourite colour. Closely followed by yellow. I do love a bit of yellow. Such a personal thing, colour, isn't it? I'd love to know what makes people prefer one colour over another. And then finally I'm using another returning colour, Lemon Lime Twist. So this again is, I think this is the, yeah, this is the light one. So I've used the light versions of all of these. And this is a really zingy lemon lime colour. The name is very apt. It looks fantastic with layers of this card paired with black stamping or black card, but it goes really nicely with other colours too. When we had this as an in colour, it was really popular with my customers, so people are very happy to have it back. There we are. So that's the colouring done. I'm now going to stamp my label, and I'm using Berry Burst ink for that, and I'm just using the thank you stamp from the set, so I'm not doing any elaborate phrasing on this. And my stash of thank you cards is a little bit depleted, so I'm very happy to to make some more. Okay. And then last of all, before I assemble, I'm just going to stamp a little bit of interest onto this one. So I'm using this circle background stamp, which I'm just going to, I've got it on a diagonal, I'm just going to straighten it up on there. Now these circles are interlinked and also slightly distressed, which means first of all that if you stamp and get an incomplete image, nobody is going to know. And secondly, it means that you can overlap them when you're stamping them if you want an all-over pattern, and it works really, really easily to do that. And if I bring up the stamp as well, move things along a little bit, there we are, I'm hoping you can see that. So this is several impressions of the image and a couple there, and I've just overlapped them, and because the circles are overlapping on the stamp, then you can just overlap them on your work to kind of continually cover it. It's very easy to do, you don't have to line anything up. Okay, so let's put some layers together. So the only die cut I'm using on this card is that label. The rest of it is stamping. So although I think, you know, the dies are, I was going to say the star of the show, the stamps are fantastic, but the dies are really kind of eye-catching. That's not at all straight. Let's try that one again. You can just use the stamps. Right, let's try that one again. See if I can get it down straight to start with. That's better. And then I'm going to glue this piece on top. I'm using a bit more glue than I would on both of these because I've got that textured surface. So I want to make sure that everything attaches really nicely. Hi Jackie. Jackie says that's a great idea. I'm not sure what was a great idea, Jackie, but I'm glad it was because I've only just seen your comment. You haven't seen a hard copy of the catalogue yet? No, well, you're in for a treat because the catalogue is really great. And as I say, I don't think anything compares with actually seeing it on paper, but seeing it online is the next best thing. So I'm going to pop that down on there. And then somewhere I've got some dimensionals which I'm going to use on that. I'm covered in glue. Very messy today. I must need a day off, I think. I worked on the last bank holiday Monday. It's such a busy time of year. I had a lot to do. But I'm feeling like I could do with some time off. I actually worked some of the weekend as well. So I'm looking forward to some time this weekend. There we go. Let's just pop that on there and I'll lift it up in a second to show you, but I'm going to put on a bow first. So I've got a little silver ribbon bow here. I've used the narrow silver ribbon, which is one of the online specials again, although I can absolutely order it for you. There's a reel of gold and a reel of silver. And it's a single-sided ribbon, so when you tie a bow you tend to get one of the ends which is showing the back. But with a little tweak and a bit of glue dot you can sort that out, which is what I'm going to do. So first of all I'm going to roll a glue dot up. I'm just flicking it with the tip of my scissors just to sort of roll it back on itself and make it smaller in diameter. And I'm going to put that on the back just to hold that end in place, and then I'm going to do the same again to make sure that there's enough to attach it to my card, because this is such narrow ribbon that the knot is a bit small for a glue dot just used straight off the roll. There we are. So that's my card front. And then just do a little bit of stamping on the insert. I'm just going to use that circle image again across the corners. Ah, Jackie's saying what's clever is the design of the circle stamp. It's very forgiving. Yeah, it absolutely is, Jackie. It's so easy. You can see I'm not really, you know, taking very much care in my placement or anything. I'm just stamping it and overlapping the stamp a little bit each time. And you honestly can't tell that it's separate images. It just works. I mean, I can do careful lining up if I have to, but it's so much nicer not to have to. And I'm not going to put separate words on this because it's a thank you card, so I need some space inside to write. So there we are. That's the completed card. Now let me show you the other one where instead of Berry Burst I've used Azure Afternoon, so it's exactly the same design, just a different colour. I'll bring this one up to show you as well. So that little blue flower is coloured in using Azure Afternoon. The pink flower is another new colour, Bubble Bath, and the leaves are Soft Sea Foam. Yeah, Jackie's saying it's great for new stampers and less pressure to get it right. Yes, that's really true, Jackie. Something that you don't have to line up, that will look good whether you overlap it a little bit or a lot. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. So there we are, two versions of essentially the same card. So let's set that one aside. I'll bring it back at the end when I show you everything. And I'm just going to put my ink pad back in the stand because it's close, and clean my stamps because I will be using some of those again. Haven't got a stamping scrub, it is by far the best thing for cleaning stamps. It's a double-sided chenille kind of pad, each one's in a tray. You spray cleaner on here, which I did before we started, so it's damp, and you rub your stamps on there and then you dry them off on this side, which stays dry and clean. Eventually this side will have picked up lots and lots of ink from your dirty stamps, and then you just rinse it under the tap. I usually add a little bit of washing up liquid, scrub it with my fingers, give it a really good rinse, let it drain. I put mine in the airing cupboard overnight. If you haven't got an airing cupboard, just leave it on the draining board to dry and it comes up as good as new. I have had mine for 10 years. They are absolutely fantastic. They're still in really good condition. To be honest, they look pretty much new. They get used every single day and they get washed regularly. They're a really, really good buy. The chamois are great for a quick clean up, but they don't get your stamps as clean as a scrub does. So I often use a chamois in classes for quick cleanups, and then everything gets cleaned properly on a scrub before I pack it all away at the end. Alright, so now I'm going to make a card which uses mostly die cut pieces. I am stamping a word on it, but it's mostly die cuts. So I've used another new colour because it's so nice to be able to show you all the new colours. This is Boho Blue. This is one of the in colours, so we will have this for 2 years. So I have a Boho Blue card base, a layer of white, a piece of the Boho Blue ribbon. I've got another die cut label. This one is a little bit bigger than the last one. And then I've got 3 die cut pieces. I can't easily get my die cutting machine under the camera, so I tend to do my die cutting before I get going. Let's see if I can get all of those underneath, just about. There we are. So they're all cut in Boho Blue card as well. So to give you the measurements, my card base is 8 inches by 5 3/4, and I've scored it landscape. That's on the long side at 4 inches. That front panel is 5.5 inches by 3 1/4 inches, and my insert is 5.5 inches by 3 3/4 inch. So I'm going to do some stamping first. And I'm going to use that circle stamp again, and I'm going to use it all down the left hand side just to create a kind of some interest here. You could use a strip of pattern paper there, but sometimes it's nice to just stamp, so that's what I'm going to do. So I'm using Boho Blue ink. I don't think I'm going to need to use a foam mat for this. No, it's stamping fine. So once again, I'm just stamping this multiple times overlapping the images, and you get this lovely tone on tone effect. I'm turning the stamp round occasionally just so it's not too uniform. And I'm coming into the left as you look at it more than I need to, because this is going to be covered over partly. This side will be covered over by my panel. There we are. Actually, I've just shut my ink pad. I need that again. So I'm going to stamp thank you on the label. Same thank you I used before. I like this one. It's really bold and clear. There we are. And I must have blue ink on me sometime. Look, can you see I've just put a big smudge on that? That's not good, is it? Never mind. Fortunately, that will be covered over. All right, here is my white panel. I'm just going to add just a little bit of stamping to this, just down at the bottom corner. The same circle stamp again. There we are. Maybe just a tiny bit there. There we are. When I made the other sample for this, I didn't do that to start with, and it was just ended up with too much white showing. So I added a little bit of that and it looked much better. So now I'm going to wrap this ribbon around the white card and fix the ends onto the back. So a glue dot is always the best thing to fix ribbon with. It's an instant grab and it doesn't show through to the front. Glue can sometimes soak through or kind of wick along the weave of the ribbon, and you're not going to get that with a glue dot. So I'm doing it almost at the left hand edge, but not quite. Yeah, so Jackie is liking that little bar on the die cut, saying it's so much less fiddly to have the strip to stick the leafy bits on with. Yes, it really is, Jackie. You'll see me do that in just a minute. It's genius. And of course you could always snip that strip off if you were desperate to have all those elements separately. You could snip the strip off, but I think it's going to be very, very useful. I can hear the dog barking. I'm hoping the doorbell isn't going to ring. It's only me at home today. So let's hope that it's the postman, who has not been yet today. I don't know what's happened with our post deliveries. Used to come first thing in the morning, and then they've got later and later and later and later in the day. Okay, so that's what that's looking like. So I've wrapped the ribbon round and then I've stuck the panel onto the front. Now I'm going to bring in my die cut pieces and build those up. The other clever thing about this is that when you line up these bars, the decorative botanical pieces are all offset from each other. So if I layer that on there, you can see that those are really nicely offset. If I put this one on top, again, the pieces overlap really nicely. I'm trying to put them on something with some contrast so you can see. So you just instantly get a really nice arrangement of the pieces. I've only used 3. If you put the 4th one on as well, then again that fits into the gaps. So clever. And you can arrange them in any order you like, it doesn't matter. I think I'll perhaps do it in that order. And then all you have to do is just put some glue on this strip or bar and then match that on top, and then a bit more glue, and there we are. That's one piece with all those little floral and leafy pieces joined together. You can see I was a bit enthusiastic with the glue, but I'm going to stick a label over the top of that, so that's not a problem. So now I bring in my label, and again, glue on there. Ooh, much too much. I've got a new thing of glue, and I'm pressing it far too hard. My last one was pretty much empty, and you had to work quite hard to get the glue out. And now I'm just going to decide where I want to put that label, and then just glue it down on top. And then I have my botanicals beautifully arranged under the label with no fuss, no trying to hold these tiny little thin pieces. So it's brilliant. So I'm going to attach that to the front of my card. Now on this side of the back I've got 3 layers of blue card, so that's actually quite deep, and on this side I don't have any, so I'm going to use dimensionals on this side and glue on the blue card, and then it will sit much more evenly on my card front. Trying to find the bin. I move everything to do this so that it's a more convenient setup, and sometimes I forget where I put the bin. So a little bit of glue on there, and you can leave these leafy shapes completely free, but I'm going to catch them down just in a few places just by putting a little dot of glue on the back of some of those larger sections. You can of course as well cut these with the adhesive sheet if you want, but I'm not needing them all fully glued on the back, just a few little bits, so I haven't worried about that. But if you're cutting the separate flowers in this set, then I recommend that that's what you do, that you cut them with card and you've put the adhesive sheet on the back. There we are. So that's the card front finished. And then on my insert, once again, I'm going to bring in that circle stamp. And just add a little bit of stamping, but leave most of it blank as it's a thank you card. Oh, and look at that. Wouldn't you know, I put some ink. I can't even see where that's from. I know I've got some black on my fingers from earlier. Okay, so circle stamp to the rescue. Let's see if we can, yeah, it's not perfect, but it'll work. And let me just find something to put on the edge. I want to stamp off the edge of this white, but because I've just glued it in, I don't want the blue ink to go on my card base, so I'll just put a little bit of paper there, because I just need to balance out having added that extra bit of stamping there. And then I need to add another little bit up here. There we are. Sometimes people say to me, I make so many mistakes when I card make, and I say, if you were a fly on the wall in my craft room, you'd see that I do that too. So there we are. So you can see the inky smudge if you know it's there, but it's much more disguised than it was. So don't tell anyone, okay? And then they won't know. All right. So that is my boho blue thank you card. Haven't pressed that down very well. And here's one I made earlier, which uses one of the other in colours, which is Moody Mauve, which is this lovely kind of dusty pink colour. And on this one, I just dipped the edges of the label into the ink pad just to give it a really, really fine border. But other than that, it's exactly the same card. So Jackie's going, wow. Great to get a wow, Jackie. Thank you very much. Yeah, these die cut pieces are so easy to use. All right. And then I'm going to clean those stamps again and just talk a little bit about my last card. So I've got a finished card to show you, and I'm not going to make the whole card, but I am going to show you how to make a really, really easy pop-up mechanism for inside. Okay, so here's my card. So I've got a Highland Heather base. On the front I've got some layers cut with the Scalloped Contours dies. The Happy Birthday is from Go To Greetings, and the little flower stamped in the background is from the same set Timeless Arrangements that we've been using all afternoon. And you can see that I've added some die cuts. Now these are the separate little die cut pieces. These are not the ones that are attached to a bar, because there are some separate ones too, and I've just tucked them in behind that top layer. I've used Bubble Bath, Lemon Lolly, which is a new yellow, and Soft Sea Foam for the colours, as well as a little bit of Highland Heather there. And then these are some new adhesive gems, and I've used the Lemon Lolly ones. Okay, so far so pretty, but the fun really comes, I'm hoping this will show adequately on camera, when you open it up and you've got a pop-up flower basket inside. And if I put it like that, I'm hoping that you'll be able to see. Yes, you can just about see there. There's a little pop-up mechanism in there. So the whole thing folds flat, and then when you open it up, you've got your pop-up. Now this pop-up method will work for anything at all. I will show you how to size it for this, but whatever you're wanting to stick to it, you can go much bigger. You can put multiple elements along there. The principle is the same for everything. Thank you, Jackie. Jackie's saying the sound is perfect today. I'm very relieved about that, Jackie. Okay, so this is a standard card base. So it started off at 8 inches by 5 3/4 of an inch, and I've scored it at 4 inches. And I've made a landscape card, but you could work this either way. But let's do it. I'll show you one the same as mine. So I've got this insert here, which is a little bit smaller. It's just 1/4 of an inch smaller. So this is 8 inches. And this is 7 3/4 of an inch, and this is 5 3/4 of an inch across, and this is 5 1/2 inches across. So I've just gone down 1/4 of an inch, and I've scored it in the middle, which in this case is 3 7/8 of an inch. Let me put that there. So we've got the card base, and we've got the insert, and then on the front I used the Scalloped Contours dies. Okay, so to make the pop-up mechanism, I wanted one element in the center. So the first thing to do is to find the center point on my fold of my insert. So I've got I've got my grid paper, but I've also got a ruler and I've got a pencil. So my center point, if this is what am I talking about? 5.5 inches. You can either put it on your grid paper like this. You've got a crisscross there and you can find the center by making sure the bit either side is even. I've also got a ruler with a 0 in the middle, so that makes life easy as well. Or you can just measure it and halve it. So I'm going to mark my center point here. So I've just put a pencil mark there. And then I needed to think about what was I going to put across the middle. So I knew that I was going to have one of these die cuts here. So I needed to know how big that was to make sure that my mechanism was going to fit behind it, because it's no good me making my little struts for the pop-up out here if this is going to glue in the middle there. They obviously need to fit this. So this was 2 and 3/8 across. So I knew that I had to keep my marks inside that. So you can make this 2 3/8, or you can just lay this across. And to be perfectly honest, I think it's much easier to actually use your die cut. Okay, so I've got the center point of my card marked, and I've got the outermost limits of my label marked, if you like. Somebody's just given me an angry face, so I'll assume that that was a mistype. I don't think I've said anything controversial. Okay, so now I know how big that is. So my mechanism needs to come inside of those 2 outer points. And I'm going to try and keep it central again. And if I put the center point of my ruler on there, and then I can measure in, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark 2 parallel marks to the left and 2 parallel marks to the right, and that's going to be my cutting marks, and it will make more sense. I'll talk through the process a second time once I've made the marks. So what I'm going to do is make them 1/4 inch wide, and I've brought them in 1/4 inch from the edge. So we've got lots of marks on here now. And I also needed to think about how deep in did I want them to go. So I'm going to make them 1/2 inch in. So I'm actually going to mark 1/2 inch in there as well, and then I'll rub out the ones that I don't want. Okay, I have a feeling I'm making this sound far more complicated than it needs to be. All right, so I'm going to rub out the center mark, and I'm going to rub out the edges of where my label sits, because I don't need those anymore. So what I'm left with are 2 lines, if you like, here, either side of the middle, and I'm going to snip there. Now you can do this on your trimmer, but it's so small that I actually find it easier to do on my scissors. So I'm wanting to snip in as closely as I can the same distance on all 4 snips, which is what those pencil marks there are. So about 1/2 inch deep I've cut. I probably need to go, wasn't quite up to my 1/2 inch mark. There we are. So I can rub out those marks now. They're going to be on the inside. You don't really need to rub them out. So what I've got are 2 little slits. Okay, so they're equal distances from the center, and if I put my label on there, my label comes out wider than where those struts are, which is what you want, because that way they'll be hidden. And then the last thing I'm going to do is bring in my bone folder, and I'm just going to score across there just to help them fold. And I'll do that on both sides. There we are. Okay, so now if I open this out, what I want to do is push in these little struts that I snipped, and I want them to fold with a mountain fold in the middle of them, and the rest of this is a valley fold. So you just have to kind of get your fingers in there and get it to start, and then it will fold really easily. So then I'm going to fold this in half, and it will all fold flat, and I'll use my bone folder on it to make sure that everything is nicely creased. There we are. So now I have, hoping you can see them, those two little struts there, and that's what I use to stick my label on. So if I bring back the card, so I die cut my label and stamped it. I die cut those pieces, they're all the ones with the bars. I stuck them behind. I used all four options of the pieces, one of each, different colours for each piece, so you can see that there are no gaps. The whole lot just arranges beautifully like that. I stuck them all behind my label, so you saw me do that on this card. And then if I can find my label, so imagine I've got all the foliage on here, I then put glue on what will be the front of those struts, so not the top, just the front, and glued that in place like that. So I held it there till the glue grabbed, and then I folded it down and pressed it, and then lo and behold, when I opened up the card, that is glued in place. So that's how this mechanism works. I'm just going to run through how I worked out where to cut my slits again, because I'm aware that it was perhaps not making a lot of sense because you didn't quite know where I was going with it. So I marked the centre of this because I wanted my pop-up to be in the middle, so I needed to know where the middle was. And then what I needed to do was make excuse me, two parallel marks, one side and one the other side of the centre, and I wanted them equidistant. It wouldn't really matter, to be honest, if they were not equal distances from the centre, but that's what I did. And I had a look at this and thought, well, when my strut's glued on the back, I don't want it to come up and then be showing up here. So how deep does that strut need to be? So it needed to be about 1/2 inch was going to work fine. That left plenty of room here for the strut not to show. So I needed to cut in 1/2 inch. And how wide this was really was up to me. I could have made it much wider, but it didn't need to be because this isn't terribly heavy. I went with 1/4 inch. I could have made that 1/2 inch wide, and I would have just accounted for that when I made my pencil marks. So I made pencil marks for this side, pencil marks for that side, and then I measured in how far I wanted to cut and just put a couple of little dots so I knew. So that I measured in 1/2 inch and cut those both sides using my scissors. And then just to help them fold neatly, I laid my ruler along and used my bone folder to score each strut between the two cuts like that. And then when I opened it, I pushed those little struts in, and they need to have mountain folds on them, and this is a valley fold here for the rest of the insert. And then use your bone folder to make sure that it's really nicely folding, and then your pop-up element can stick on there. This could be anything. It could be a large panel with happy birthday on it. It could be 3 little forest animals. I could have made 3 lots of struts, or maybe even 3 single struts. I've got a double strut for this because it's quite wide, but if I got something small like that, it would only need 1 pop-up on the back. So you can really tailor this to whatever it is that you're trying to pop up in your card. So I'll show you this one a final time. And there we are. So that is how to make a simple pop-up mechanism. Let me bring back the other cards I made this afternoon with this Timeless Arrangements bundle. It's a really nice bundle. I like it a lot. I've got one more card I can show you, which we did at my card class yesterday. You've also got this if you're doing the by post class. So there we are. Similar idea. This time I used that little flower to scatter across the background. And again, the die cut pieces. Right, well, I hope you've enjoyed seeing this. I'm going to move the camera back up so that I can say bye-bye to you. I will be back next Friday. There we go. Hooray, I'm not upside down. That's always good. Yes, I will be back next Friday at 2 o'clock as usual. There we go, which is the 12th. I can't tell you today what I'm doing next week. It depends on whether my order arrives. The day the catalogue went live for everybody, I was able to order from it as well. So although I could get a few things early, I couldn't get many things early. So I placed quite a big order on Tuesday, my first opportunity. I'm hoping that it will arrive in time for me to do something using something new for you next week, but we will see. I aim to put an event up on my Facebook page, so once I've decided, so you will be able to see, but that may not be up until Thursday when I've made a decision as to whether my parcel's going to arrive in time for me to unpack it and pull some things out or not. I hope you have a wonderful bank holiday weekend, whatever you're doing, whether you're celebrating or not. I think the weather's going to be a little bit iffy, but that's okay, because a day off's a day off. So enjoy your weekend, and I will look forward very much to seeing you again next week. Thank you, Jackie. Yeah, you think the village is doing something brilliant. Well, you have a really good weekend. Thanks so much, everybody. Bye bye.